welcome to our Waste Management and Biodiversity presentation. This project was undertaken by 30 Year 9 Geography students in semester 2 of 2006. This project involved tours of the Visy Recycling Centre and Rockdale Wetlands, and additionally audits were conducted at the school. This project culminated on the 14th of December 2006 with the presentations of these findings at the St George Environmental Forum, involving both Rockdale and Cogger councils. We hope you are enlightened by our presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Rockdale Environmental Forum for 2006. My name is Bernie McGinn, and I will be your content for this presentation. Over the past 4 months, the students of Sydney Technical High School have thoroughly investigated the waste and biodiversity issues of the school. I will hand it over to Laltox Wangu very shortly. But first, Laltox, after conducting your extensive research on these issues within the school, in your opinion, do you think the school could be more environmentally aware?
Well, surely yes, Bernie. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of waste and biodiversity is very much present in our society. We, as students, want to target these two issues in our school and want to make a change, a lasting change. A change which will encourage other schools to also make the school a more environmentally aware one. We knew that we couldn't just start from nowhere and expect to achieve our goals. We need to organize and plan our project. We started off by collecting data. Thankfully, we have done a waste and biodiversity audit that helps us see the problems that face us. Within our waste audit, we analysed our garbage to see what it consisted of. Our biodiversity audit measured our biodiverse environment. We discovered some really good things and some not so good things. But these we'll talk about a bit later on. Once we had our data, we set out our vision and goal. We, as green leaders, want to make a great difference to our school. So we created our vision. Our vision was to make our school a more environmentally aware one that had a biodiverse environment and an effective way to recycle and reuse the massive waste we produce. Therefore, we set out our goals, which were to set up a safe area to store waste, to increase recycling in the school, set up a compost facility, raise awareness on waste management, encourage biodiverse environments. And a clean school is definitely a school without pigeons. Our goal set and a vision in sight, we had to go to action by creating an action plan. We discussed our goals and how to achieve them. We talked with senior members of staff, and then got down to the nitty-gritty stuff of actually making it happen. So as you can see, it's only after going through all these steps that we were able to create our action plan and make something happen. But before we get down to what we did, let's see the problem of waste in our modern day society. Day after day, we're creating more and more waste which we as humans cannot deal with. We know the earth is big, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's not big enough. What should we do with this waste? Can we continue to kill our Mother Earth? I don't think so. The population of the earth at this time is 6 billion. It is expected to rise to 12 billion by 2050, 20 billion by 2100, 30 billion by 2150, and a massive 50 billion by 2200. Within the next 200 years, our population will multiply by 6 times, and with it, so will our waste. But maybe not only 6, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 times, depends on what we do right now. We're already facing land problems. Many thousands of people across the world no longer have reasonable space to live in. On average, we have 20 people living on every square kilometre land portion of the earth. And after 200 years, we'll have 120 people living on that same land portion. So as you can see, we will not have enough space for ourselves, let alone for our future waste. I know what most of you are thinking. How much waste we really have? Believe me, we have a lot of it, and even that is an understatement. On average, one Australian contributes 1 tonne of waste per year. That is 1,000 kilograms. As Australians, we contribute 33 million tonnes per year. Majority of this ends up in landfill sites, rivers, waterways, and the sea, and it causes even more damage when it gets there. The dumping of chemicals in lakes and rivers is poisoning the fish species, which causes algae to dominate the rivers and is not being consumed by the fish. When birds come to catch their lunch, they're covered with algae, which doesn't allow them to fly and eventually kills them. And remember, this all started due to our mismanagement of waste. Now let's think a bit closer to home. What can we do as a Rockdale community? We already recycle much of our waste, but the awareness of recycling is not present. Within my local area, which is at Bexley, I see many people who throw plastic bags, organic materials, and other non-recyclable materials into recycling bins. And do you know why? Yep, laziness, lack of knowledge, selfishness are only a few of the reasons why many of us, including me, have not recycled what we could have. So as you can see, there are many things that we can do as a Rockdale community, and the place that we decided to start our awareness was within our school. To tell the truth, our school is not that good at managing our waste, as many of you probably already know. But we, as a team, want to make a change. Our school, your school, Sydney Technical High School has no compost facility, has no paper recycling. It only has one massive general waste bin. But we wanted to change all that. We talked to many of us staff members about the action that the school already follows to manage waste. Let's see the type of response we got from them.
What do you know about the school's waste management system?
Not an awful lot. I believe that we have some recycling and that we are discriminating at times with the things that we throw away or that we recycle in other ways, like printer cartridges and so on, but that's about all.
I only can tell you what I know ourselves, what we do here in the canteen. We recycle all cardboard. Unfortunately, we don't compost, which would be nice, but we don't have that facility. And all the cardboard and
We can see from these responses that waste is a serious problem within our school. We have some measures in place, but we have to in place many more before it is too late. By 2015, environmentalists believed that Lucas Heights would be filled completely. The solution for this, for our government, is instead of revising waste management, is to put it on a train and send it all the way to Gold. It's obvious to us that the generation before us has completely lost it. Rather than recognize there is a problem and come up with a long-term solution, they come up with a short-term one which we know definitely not work. Obviously, this will have a detrimental effect on our school. The cost of waste management will rise, and it will become even harder for us to take action towards managing our waste. It was due to this reason, and many more, that we decided to take action now rather than delaying it even further. Because it was quite evident that it had been delayed for too long. As when we interviewed our teachers and students, we found that they also had limited idea about the waste management issues present within our school. Let's see the problem, and then we'll find a solid solution.
Litter. It's everywhere around us. It's in the playgrounds, it's in the staff rooms, it's in the classrooms, it's even in the bins. But most of it is not.
Yes, Nick, how can I help you? So we'd like to ask you a few questions about the school and its waste. What do you think the school waste management system should achieve?
Well, it should try and minimise waste, a bit the obvious thing, and that includes minimising energy waste. So we've got lots of lights, lots of heating cooling, all those kind of things. Power resource, there's a big concern before. As well as paper, which is one of our major resources that we seem to use.
What do you think the school's waste management system should achieve?
I think a school has enormous opportunities to probably recycle efficiently because given the size of the institution, there is a tremendous amount of material, paper and otherwise, that goes through these places. And if you multiply that by every high school and primary school that's in the system, then it's a central way of trying to get a large amount of material probably recycled.
Just shooting my basic, determining what waste is real waste and what waste can be recycled. And waste that can be recycled actually can be recycled.
I think everything that can possibly be recycled should be recycled, as I do in my own home.
Would you change anything about the school's waste management system or add anything to it?
No, only that over the years, I mean, I've done my own private recycling, as I'm sure many members of staff have, and also I know some students through their class activities. And I've often thought that we probably should have more of a uniform approach.
We're going to do a floor count underneath this tree. What are your views on the school's current state? Solid.
I've been saying for years it should have filled in, but the previous principal actually threw me out of his office when I tried to tell him about it. He physically shoved me out.
It's like green and growing.
What are your thoughts on the school's current state?
It's cool.
This isn't a great state at the moment.
Over the course of the show, our interviews have shown that most students at the school do not know much about the school and its waste management system, and that the school could be doing more to help manage waste efficiently. We need to look more at recycling paper, cans, bottles, and other waste so that we can reduce landfill. And look at other initiatives such as worm farms for management of canteen waste and a secure fenced-off area to prevent vandalisation. To do this, we need to approach the SRC, prefects, student body, the principal and the deputies, as well as the PNC, for funding and to raise awareness about projects and issues concerning waste. If we are to achieve this goal of a cleaner and more sustainable school environment, we need to act now. We will then be one step closer to the bigger goal, the sustainability of our entire environment.
So boys, what steps have you taken to try and rectify this issue?
You're right, Bernie. I mean, after all this time, what have we been doing about this huge problem? Now, the way Lowell Touch and Mr. North has been talking about the problem, it seems as if the world's going to end if we don't do something about the environment. We're going to have garbage falling from the sky. But it's not this bad. Luckily, we can make it change. So we've identified three main problems in the school. First of all, we've identified the security of our waste. Second of all, the lack of recycling that we do. Third of all, the lack of composting we do. Now what we did is we conducted a waste audit. Now what this consisted of was splitting up the waste that we all produce in one school day. All the stuff you guys throw out, we looked at and measured and came up with some results. We sifted through your guys' waste. We found the most disgusting stuff you could ever imagine, all in the name of the environment. But we did discover some good news and some bad news. Now what we found out is that 36% of our waste can be composted. 14% is commingled, 31% is recyclable paper, 17% has to go to landfill, and another 2% is reusable. Now this is great news. I mean, 83% of our waste doesn't have to go to landfill, but unfortunately it does. What has been the cause of this? How can we start up our recycling again? Now, for many of you that don't know this, we've had some vandalism in the school. And no, this isn't just your normal type of vandalism, not the ones where we see graffiti on the walls. This is pyromaniacs. Yes, they have been burning our paper recycle bins. Now what this means is it's just not feasible for the school to keep on recycling, so we've had to stop it. We need to set up a secure area to store our waste. We've already looked at a place to fence off so that we can securely start our recycling again. So if we can just do this, we can start up our paper recycling again. However, all of this takes time and it also takes a lot of organisation. So we started to look at ways we can do this. We started to schedule times and dates for the construction of the fence. It will cost a bit of money. Again, we have started to look at this. Next, we really need to shop for quotes and obtain funding for the project. We've approached the senior executive, we've approached the administration staff and the budget committee. They are all very much behind us to get this project going. Next, we want to seek executive approval. We already know that our executive is very much behind us to start this project up. But what next? Even after we set up this facility, there is still a long way to go. Unfortunately, you might not realise how much waste we actually produce in our school. Now, our bin, our general waste bin that Laltash was talking about, is 3 cubic metres. Now, normally a school would maybe take this out 2 or 3 times a week. Our school takes it away 5 times a week. So what can we do about this? We need to increase the recycling in the school. We really wanted to initiate change in the school and make the recycling program happen. It should happen. It should make a difference. So due to these pyromaniacs, it just hasn't happened. So the recycling has to be done. Now what we've already started to do is investigate a feasible method in which we can start recycling. We've talked to Visi, we've talked to many recycling companies, and they've given us great ideas about recycling. Again, one of the things we've investigated is whether it's feasible. And not only is it feasible for the environment, it is feasible for the school and more economic. Now, I don't know what it is, but being an all-boys school, I think that our rubbish just doesn't make it to the bin all the time. Now, what we need to do is start up a school-wide campaign for support. Now, we want to talk to the SRC. We want to put into our curriculum what to do, what our impact individually is when we start not to put our recycling, we start to throw out our rubbish into the environment. We also want to advertise and promote all the benefits of recycling. Next though, we have to look at installing places where we can actually throw out our rubbish. We really want to install these suitable bins that can make it recycling friendly for our students. Now we've had some great ideas in our class. Ben Middleton and Matthew Hillman and Francois Verheulen have created a way in which to convert a normal school bin into a 3-way bin, which means we can split up our composting, our recycling and our general waste. But still, even if we start recycling again, this is only 31% of our waste. It's only still a small percentage of what we can actually do. So, the next integral part of our plan is to start up food composting. Now, the place that creates the most food scraps is the canteen. And when we did our waste load, the people that were advising us were saying how great compost it would make. So, if we can try and talk to the canteen and start composting up, this is another 36% that can be recycled. This all takes time and research. And prior to construction, we really need to look at how we can make composting the most efficient possible. Again, organisation is the key. We've also started to receive measures. We've looked at feasible ways that can make our recycling and composting the most effective. Now, we've also been looking at these quotes. We've been seeing that it isn't that expensive to set up a composting plant, and it will be beneficial for the environment. After this, we can finally set up our composting. Finally though, we need to raise awareness. Now, composting isn't the easiest thing to do, but if we can just start to do things like hold outdoor assemblies, start promotion on the benefits for the environment, we can start to make a difference. What many of you won't realise is that every single one of you makes a difference to the environment. Australia, per capita, is the largest producing per capita. Now, as you can see, this one person can make a huge difference in the environment. And it's up to us boys to be the leaders, the green leaders of the next generation, so that we can have a great environment, so that we can live like our past generations and have a great society.
Thank you, Cameron, for that exciting and interesting speech. I hope your school succeeds in its actions against waste problems. My good pal Nick will now introduce the second half of this presentation. I'll see you guys on the next
that we should preserve every scrap of biodiversity as priceless, while we learn to use it and come to understand what it means to humanity. Now this statement is very true, and Sydney Tech has tried to incorporate it into its biodiversity program. But first, very briefly, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity is the variety of all living things on Earth, the variety of plants, animals, and even tiny microorganisms. But biodiversity is not just about the diversity of species. It is also about the genetic information they contain in the ecosystems these species form. Thus, to contain and sustain biodiversity is a very important thing, not just for the present, but especially for future generations.
That's all well and good, Nick, but what is the significance of biodiversity in Sydney Tech?
Well, Bernie, the reason why we need a biodiverse area is so that we can sustain the ecosystem around us, so that in return, these species will stay alive for future use. It is also important that we manage the biodiversity at our school, because if we just leave it as it is, chances are that it will continue to get worse and deteriorate until most of the species die off in this area. Thus, to sustain our environment and make sure that it is diverse is vital for future generations.
Now, our school is like every other school. Students, teachers, and those feathered rats we like to call pigeons. But our school, like every other school, deals with the ongoing issue of biodiversity. Nick has already explained why biodiversity is so important and the difference it can make in the environment. But nevertheless, not every school is perfect in terms of biodiversity. Our school, for instance, Sydney Technical Park, has a wonderful array of gardens with an abundance of flora, but nevertheless, isn't perfect. Examples like our front oval, where we see fruit-bearing trees that provide the essential foods to house birds like the raven and the rainbow lorikeet, a place with 100% native plants, but also a place where weeds thrive and hard, dry soil is apparent in every corner. Yes, this place is a prime example of why we need to improve biodiversity, and yet another example of the problems we face with biodiversity. But not all gardens here at Tech are ones that need. Botany Street's isolated forest is a place where weeds aren't a problem and compact soil doesn't exist. Yes, the only problem this place has with biodiversity is its lack of size. This forest bears native grevillea and wattle plants that welcome birds like the lorikeet, wattlebird, and the odd crimson rosella. A garden where its rich moist soil serves as an example of why we need to improve and sustain gardens of its nature. The back oval, like its front oval counterpart, deals with the ongoing issue of weeds and soil compaction. Although olive and mulberry trees do their best to attract birds, native plants, old enemy, the weeds, eradicate what's left of the remaining native plants. This ongoing battle for space has seen plants like the wattle and pine trees almost vanish from our school. So even though this garden is appealing to our senses, it's not appealing to biodiversity. Its lack of diverse plants means limited animal life, and its lack of native plants means less plants, less biodiversity. But not all gardens here at Tech are ones that can be seen. Yes, amongst tall stone buildings, concrete slabs and metal fences lies yet another garden of biodiversity that until now has been almost forgotten and unrecognised. This garden thrives on flora rather than fauna. Because of the garden's location and the wonderful shelter the buildings provide, it is home to some of the most diverse plant and animal life seen throughout the school. But nevertheless, not all gardens can be like this one. Because it is evident that problems like weeds and soil compaction are problems that we Sydney Tech face and need attention. So essentially attention is what we gave it. Our biodiversity audit took place with an aim to see our school for what it really is and the actions needed to eliminate the growing problems that we Sydney Tech face today.
So what did the biodiversity audit focus on?
Well, Bernie, along with the audit our class did on waste, we also composed another one, except this time our focus topic was on biodiversity. Our main aims for this audit were to try and find results on how diverse our school was. After our audit, the class gathered much useful and valuable information on text bird life, flora, weeds, and even soil compaction. First, we will take a look at flora. Now, throughout the day, many students in our class focused on the abundance and variety of flora in the school. We interviewed some teachers about the school's planting past, and we even composed a scoring sheet and graded gardens all over the school. Now, as you can see on the projector screen, here is an aerial view of Sydney Tech, with each major garden or ecosystem labelled with a number. We set out in small groups and evaluated each of these gardens according to the following criteria: its number of layers, area size, native and introduced plants, number of species, and finally its habitat. Out of a possible total of 23 marks, our school had the highest score, which was located at number 9. We also had very close 19s at numbers 1, 11, and 13. We then had another 5 locations scoring above 15, with only 6 gardens in the entire school scoring lower than 15, with the lowest being 9. That meant that our school was extremely diverse, especially when compared to other schools in the area. However, our school still has a lot of room for improvement, especially in those 6 areas scoring below 15. Now, in relation to our biodiversity issues, we also interviewed our good old teacher, Mr. Neville Roper. He gave us an insight into the flora at our school. He told us that some of the native plants that are common around the school grounds are the brush box, grevillea, wattle, and eucalypt, but that we also have a few rare native plants that include the lily-pilly and fig tree. Now, the school also has a lot of exotic plants, which include the agapanthus, privet, palm tree, and we even have some olive and African trees within the school grounds. However, after viewing Sydney Tech, we concluded that it is approximately 90% native and 10% introduced species, which is extremely good. Now, during the audit, another one of our aims was to gather sufficient information on the bird life at Tech. To do this, the class split into separate groups and surveyed the school at 2 separate 20-minute intervals. The first was between 9:40 and 10 AM. During this time, the students found 5 native and 6 introduced species of birds. They included noisy miners, magpies, Indian miners, wattlebirds, and unfortunately, the pigeon. Our second survey took place after recess at approximately 11:40 to 12 PM. This time, our results showed a lot fewer birds, except for the raven and pigeon, which rose in numbers. Now, the class noticed 2 major differences between these surveys. Firstly, that the amount of scavengers we had at our school was way too high. And secondly, that a lot of the native birds left after recess, either due to the amount of exotic birds coming in, maybe the warmer weather, or possibly the increased number of students in our school grounds. Next, as we were walking around Sydney Tech, we found that our school has a lot of problems with its weed control. We managed to find a total of almost 20 different species of weeds. Now, weeds are very big pests and need to be stopped to allow the native and required plants to flourish without the unwanted competition. The other problem with weeds is how they're so very easily transported around the school. You see, when a weed is eaten by a species, most commonly a bird species, the seeds of the weed stay inside their stomach until they eventually excrete it. Then the seeds germinate and continue to grow in this newfound location. Finally, whilst doing our audit on biodiversity, many of the students noticed around the school that a lot of areas have very poor soil due to erosion. We found a lot of this soil around the cricket nets, the front and back oval, and the grass area near the staff car park. Now this soil erosion was either caused naturally, for example rainfall, wind, vegetative cover, or it could have been caused artificially by us, for example PE. Now, these are all the problems that our class found about Sydney Tech. But more importantly, how can we solve all these issues on biodiversity?
With the results and data that was collected from the biodiversity audit, how are you going to tackle what seems to be the big issues?
Yes, Bernie. But firstly, an idea that is developed into an action is more important than an idea that only exists as an idea. And I know what you're thinking, and yes, I did not come up with that. But a man did. And although the words are forgotten today, their meaning appeals to us, telling us that having the idea is pretty much useless unless you put it into action. And that was our aim for the biodiversity audit. From the audit, we discovered there were three major problems that stood up above all: pigeons, weeds, and the lack of native plants. To tackle these issues, we must not only think for immediate relief, but long-term and future. To tackle the issue of the lack of native plants is really quite simple. By planting the native plants in their respective places, like the wattle and pine trees for the front oval, we can in turn promote the growth of other native plants. On to the matter of weeds. Weeds, although cannot be completely eliminated, can be controlled, and preparation is the best way to go. By preparing a book of different weed species and of methods to effectively destroy them, we can give future generations the best preparation they need to safely destroy and gradually control and eliminate the weeds to clear way for the other growth of native flora and fauna. But this triangle of problems isn't complete. The matter of our feathered friends needs attention. Not only do pigeons succeed and serve as the most annoying pest of our time, with their messages from above, but they come in numbers. And our biodiversity audit showed that at any one time, at any given moment, pigeons have a total population of 35 at any given moment. But to reduce pigeon numbers is really quite simple, because pigeons feed on leftovers. If we would introduce bin lids, means no leftovers. No leftovers will mean no pigeons. No pigeons will mean the growth of native flora. But thinking of these ideas is only halfway there. If we were to put them into action, we would be able to finish the race. Because as a man once said, as we express our gratification, we must never forget that our highest appreciation is not to utter words, not to simply say them, but to live by them. John F. Kennedy, 1962. Thank you.
For addressing the challenging environmental problems within your school. I wish you guys the best for rectifying the waste and biodiversity issues within the school. I wish I could help you guys, but all I can do is recycle to the best of my ability. I hope that you guys out there take something out of these presentations, because the first steps to a sustainable future are the steps that you are taking now.
Boys, I'm sure you'll agree, problems such as these are going to take initiative, innovation and perseverance, and almost inevitably the solutions are going to be generated and driven by the younger generation. I think you might agree with me that we've seen all of these qualities in action this morning, and I'd like you to once again thank the Year 10 geographers, Mrs Davis, for raising our awareness. Make a small adjustment to the recess bells. Would you stand quietly, please, and join in singing the national anthem.